How the heck do you get a bunch of people to buy a 14mm paddle? That was just one of the many topics of conversation I had when I sat down with the founders of Carbon.
Core crush and all these things that are happening is because you have foam fused with, say, honeycomb, and that's a weak point, and that starts to break down over time. So by simplifying and going with 100% foam, we don't have that same issue.
Who recently released the most anticipated paddle as of late, the Genesis TruFoam. So where does this innovation come from such a small team? And how is doing business in California when many business owners seem to be moving out? This is the story of Carbon.
Fireside chat?
Yeah.
Let's talk about how you and Nam are going to play each other.
Oh, for sure.
What's on the line for that?
$1,000, right? Or no, that's Nam's selling into Vietnam.
That's bullshit. Nim just went 5-1 in a 5-0 tournament. That's
He probably had a goated partner, dude.
I need your help, Garrett.
All right.
Yeah, dude. Garrett, you might be the best paddle founder, best playing paddle founder I know.
Phew, I don't know. There's so many paddles out there now.
I mean, obviously, there's a few out there that are like, you know, created by players or something like that. But
Yeah.
I can't think of a bigger brand. But
I don't know, dude.
there's probably some like sneaky one out there. That's
Maybe
good,
maybe
but
Gordon's like low key, like nasty it. I don't know.
Yeah, I remember watching you play at Worlds, and I was like, what the fuck? That guy's good as shit. You hit the ball with the edge.
Oh yeah.
You like dinked it.
Yeah, I hit a
was
railing.
like,
yeah.
yeah, you had like super slick speed ups. It
he
just
made
every
Isaac's partner like almost fall on the ground.
Oh,
yeah, dude.
He did fall.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's like,
It was like Bambi on ice. Yeah.
cool. We're basically just rolling into it.
Sweet.
When can we talk about the prototype that's coming after TruFoam that I had to bleep out?
No.
We can just say we have, we have some ideas of what we want to do moving forward, but
Yeah,
we
no
don't want to say
ETA.
any timelines or anything like that.
Yeah.
We want people
And
to
no
buy
specifics.
this one. They're gonna have different uses anyways, like this
Yeah.
one is a great all court paddle. And then now that we know what, like PB core limits are at, or at least what the USAPs are, we can try to go a little bit higher, but that's all really.
You mentioned, is PB Core part of UPA?
They're trying to incorporate it, but it's, what was the most recent email update we just got? It was kind of like they're not, I don't know.
Honestly, I don't remember. We'd have to look it up.
Originally-
we have notes on it.
Originally they were saying, yes, we're going to do PB core. The test is going to be slightly different. I think they're doing different speed, and then the ball they're using will be different. So that would obviously yield different results. And I don't know where they stand. I'm so bad at it, but we had an email like last week and I just don't remember.
The big thing that UPAA for sure wants to do is destructive testing. I mean, I'm sure USAP does as well, but that's the thing that they're going to harp on a ton.
What is, for the people, assume like there's people that out there that have no idea what PB Core is. They also don't know what destructive testing is.
Yeah, we can explain. Ella, come up here so you're not click-clacking around.
She's going to be licking. It's going to be worse.
We'll
she might
see.
be
Come
licking
Come here,
the mic.
Ella.
come here,
We'll see how
tap
it goes.
dancer.
Ella, come here.
Get up here. Come on. Come on. Up. Vamos.
She's a little seal.
Yeah, she is. A little harbor seal.
Okay, now
Hey.
we don't need your butt.
All
towards
right,
the
now you just lay down.
Come on.
She's like, well, I need space.
Okay, turn. Yeah, there we go.
All
That's
right,
better.
cool. Now just stay quiet.
Yes.
This is going to work great.
Quiet.
This is the first dog guest.
Yes, that's right. Okay. Calm.
All right, perfect.
Okay.
Destructive testing.
So the goal with what they're trying to do with destructive testing is to be able to test paddles to mimic what a paddle would do over time, but do it in a short amount of time, right? So fire balls with a cannon at it, for example, and see what it would do if you were to, mimic playing a month or 2 months or something like that. So they just want to make sure that the paddle plays either the same way as when it started or close enough to it that it's still in compliance.
Right. And so that came up because of like either core crushing or paddles getting hot, right?
Yeah, and the idea is like your paddle's lifespan is kind of like a bell curve, right? So, you know, you'll play with it, and the PB core where it starts could be, you know, at this point, and then they're trying to find out where that peak of your paddle's like power is, and then when it comes back down. And so they'll say, okay, so if we put PB core at a 0.44 max, right, that's where your paddle has to max at. So if you as a manufacturer know that your paddle increases in power over its lifespan, you have to compensate for that and start at a lower PB core with a new paddle, knowing that it might get up to a 0.44 during its lifespan. So you have to be able to compensate for that if your paddle kind of breaks in or gets more powerful during its lifespan.
So is PB core a measurement or a method?
It's a measurement. It's a ratio of how fast the ball comes off your paddle versus how fast it approached your paddle, right?
So I mean, essentially exit velocity
Yeah.
in a roundabout way. Like that's what they're trying to determine, how
Okay.
hot is a ball coming off on a paddle.
Okay. Gotcha.
And this exists in other sports. I think they're basically adopting a similar thing from, say, baseball or softball is the goal.
Gotcha. So you have USAP, UPA, A. How's that been? Like, you guys have worked with USAP since the beginning of Carbon's like inception, but then like how's it working within a different regulatory body like UPAA?
What's the right way to answer? At times confusing, at times frustrating, but overall, like what we want is, whatever's good for the sport. And I think that's where people, ourselves included, are not totally sure where we want things to end up. In a perfect world, I think there's a single governing body that everybody who plays pickleball can trust to do what's right by the sport. And I don't know who that is or who that will be long term. I think it is a little confusing to have multiple. So ideally, that's not the case. Like I would love, like from a consumer standpoint, I don't love the idea of like maybe going into a shop someday and having to decide if you need, this type of paddle for these type of tournaments or this paddle for other type of tournaments or this type of play. Like I want consumers to be able to go in and trust that whatever they're buying, they can use in rec and tournament play. I think that's the best customer experience because most customers are not up to date on all this stuff. So I think that's the key, is like whatever is best for the public. And then the pro scene is a completely different story. Like they can regulate that, or whoever can regulate that however they want. But for manufacturers, it does get complicated trying to design for two different markets almost.
Oh yeah.
Because at this point, it seems like we're designing for USAP, which is, pretty much 99% of people, right? And then UPA is where you have to make sure our paddles are good for just the pros. So but we also have to, like manufacture as if it was for everybody.
Yeah.
And part of our kind of philosophy from the beginning was like, whatever we give a pro, we want someone to be able to buy that off the shelf and play with it themselves too, kind of almost like an authenticity kind of thing. And I think with now there being two sets of rules, it becomes more complicated and it kind of gets taken out of our hands. Like there's scenarios where we might not be able to do that. Like we might have to make a paddle that's good for the public and one that's good for pros that fits those rules, and those might not be the same paddle just because of a technicality almost.
Yeah. Yeah, it is interesting because even the Yola 3S paddles, even when they weren't passed by USAP, I was able to resell them on eBay, and they were like selling like crazy. So like ordinary people didn't care, or they just like didn't know. It's very interesting.
I think it's mostly that people don't know. So like at the club I play at, a bunch of people play with that paddle. There was a tournament that was USAP sanctioned, or they used USAP rules, and a bunch of people got turned down in the tournament and couldn't use that paddle. And they had no clue. These are people who are regularly playing tournaments that just don't know the rules. And it's like tough to expect someone to know all that stuff when you know, even people who are really involved in the sport kind of don't know also.
And I think like a lot of those banned paddles that were unsold went to like Asia.
How often do you see this logo on the pickleball courts? This is the logo of today's sponsor, Vuori. Vuori is a Southern California-based athletic apparel company. They specialize in activewear, lifestyle clothing, and other merchandise. Vuori's philosophy is to invest in happiness, which includes the happiness of their team, community, and the environment. Matter of fact, I'm wearing Vuori from head to toe right now. So I have the Vuori hat, I have a Vuori zip sweater, poncho crew neck, and I'm also wearing the core shorts. So what's so special about Vuori? It feels exceptionally lightweight and durable, and they don't pill like a lot of other brands do. If you want to give them a try and you want a 20% discount, go to vuori.com/buildingpickleball and you get 20% off your first order. You get free shipping on any orders of $75 or more, and you also get free returns. And the second sponsor of today's video is Peak. The product we're going to talk about today is the Nandica, which is a coffee alternative. It provides sustainable all-day energy and makes you feel like you're doing something good for your body. Not every day is perfect, and sometimes you need a small boost to get you through the day. And Peak provides that clean, long-lasting energy source to support training, working out, pickleball, long-distance running, you name it. And ever since trying Peak's Nandica, I haven't had any bad crashes, my stomach isn't experiencing any problems, and the Peak Nandica features slow-release caffeine from probiotic teas. You can try Peak and get up to 20% off plus a free rechargeable frother and glass beaker when you purchase exclusively at peaklife.com/pickleball20.
Yeah, you see those. Yeah, because it's not governed by USAP, generally speaking. Like, there's just different rules, so
Yeah.
it's all fair game.
Yeah. Damn, that's interesting. Did USAP have a fine like UPA does now? Or I don't know if it's a fine, a fee.
Yeah, absolutely.
Oh, they
There's
did.
fees.
Okay.
For testing, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, I mean, they're nonprofit USAP, so you have to, pay to have them access the labs and all that stuff. So.
Yeah. But it was, far less expensive. And I think that's some of the...
They've increased their fees this year as well.
Yeah. I mean, but I think that's some of the controversy around UPAA when it first started. Obviously, people were throwing around big numbers on what it would take to get your paddles approved.
Yeah.
And, admittedly, they are larger, much larger numbers than USAP, but it's not that USAP is free.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Got it. Didn't know that. Something you mentioned, Garrett, right in the beginning was TruFoam, the genesis being an all-court paddle, especially like this first iteration. Dude, I agree. It's great. This is going to be released on the day that's already done, so I can finally talk about it. But yeah. I've been fucking saying this like the whole time. I've been wanting to say it. I've been wanting to tell people that this is going to be like the new all-court standard. It's like people have asked, or people have been DMing me, be like, I'm stuck between the new 11.624 Vapor or this, and I just can't say anything. But now that I can, I would say that they're two different paddles. They shouldn't even be categorized in like the same category. I personally like the Carbon more. I think a lot of people will feel the same way. It's not just because you guys are here, but you see it everywhere, right? Like people who bought the Paddle Techs, people who bought the 3S, any Yola model, and then they're like, it's too much for me. And I think the 11.624 is up there with the 3S, but this paddle is much more like tamed, it's controlled. And if you look at all the past 2 years of Chris Olsen's Paddle of the Year, not that he's the authority on it, but I agreed with like the Honolulu Pickleball Company J2K. It's a great fucking paddle. I used that for like 5 months. I didn't really use the SixZero double black diamond. I get it though, but so in the past 2 years, it's always been like an all-court paddle. It's not been like this unbalanced power paddle where the power is up here, but all the other traits are like really low. There's so much separation between the traits, and then this Genesis, it's like very even.
Yeah, I think you did a great job explaining what this paddle plays like and what we were kind of going for. I think it was hard. It was a tough decision for us because there are so many really powerful, frankly, like overpowered paddles out there. I mean, you're seeing a lot of them get kind of delisted over time as the governing bodies learn and things are maturing. but it was something that we kind of strongly believed that we wanted a paddle that, how do I say this, other than like gives people a paddle that makes them better in all aspects of their game. And I think there's a lot of people clearly that want really, really powerful paddles, but you could argue a lot of those people couldn't handle that, and it, made them worse in a bunch of aspects of their game. And so I think this is, a perfect combination of the power and control that people are seeking. And I know every brand says that, it's like power and control, but in reality, I think this is a great all court paddle. And I think people are going to be, there is a learning curve because the core is so different than anything else out there. It's not as straightforward, I would say, as other things. Like, I think there's a couple, reasons why, and Garrett can help me here, but basically with the paddle, there's a few things. One, there's a muted sound to it when you hit the ball. It's not like a lot of the other foam paddles out there where there's this like loud cracking noise. It sounds like it's coming off insanely hot. It's muted, so just mentally, it doesn't sound like it's hitting as hard, but it is. It is hitting harder than our X series and a lot of the power paddles out there. And then also the other thing is because the core flexes the way it does, kind of like tennis strings to some extent, when you are trying to soften the ball up or reset or absorb power, it's really good at that. And it feels kind of plush and muted. It's like when you want power, you have access to it like strings. But it's not going to feel like a plank of wood all the time, which I think is the problem with a lot of the overpowered paddles is like you try to reset something and like good luck, basically.
Yeah, you kind of nailed it. I mean, I think the biggest thing about the paddle is the biggest difference that people will feel is the dwell. And it's just getting used to that. I mean, like the first time I started using these paddles, I had to change my drive a little bit. The release point on your, like, your wrist has to release a little bit different from just because it sits a little bit longer on the paddle. So there is some like tweaking involved, just to get that dialed in. So, but while obviously not every paddle is for everybody, we tried our best to make this like as appealing to as many people as we could.
Yeah. The Carbon 1X was like really popular amongst like varying levels of varying skill levels for players.
Well, it's funny because when we first came out with the X series, we had like the 16 mil, and even some of our pros were slow to adopt to it because of the power. They weren't used to it, right? And then a year later, they all transitioned to a 14 millimeter X series because they're like, man, that the 16's soft. And so now it's like, okay, this one hits a little bit harder than the 14. And so it's going to be interesting to see, how people feel about that. But, eventually, you get used to it, and, it makes you like adjust and improve like your touch, right, in your hand feel. So you slowly and gradually become a more advanced player, and then you can start handling things that get a little bit, a little bit hotter.
Yeah, it's funny, like you said, just how much the industry has changed in the handful of years that we've been involved. Just the paddle technology has changed, play style has changed, what people are looking for has changed, and I do think we've been through this phase of overpowered paddles where people are seeking, power above all else, and then it does feel like now we're shifting a little bit back to the norm, where people want the power, but they want the kind of a full game. And I think, like Garrett said, like dwell time's the biggest thing on this. Like I think there's a lot of people who focus in on surface roughness or grit, and they think that's like the end all be all when it comes to hitting spin, basically. And dwell time is a huge component, if not arguably maybe more important. And I guess you told us we need to define all these terms for some of the listeners in case they're not super technical. But dwell time, all it refers to is just basically the amount of time that the ball sits on the face of the paddle. And we're talking fractions of a second, obviously. But, the difference between, I guess, most other paddles out there, it's coming off even faster off the face. Whereas ours, because of the flex of the core, the ball sits on it longer. Therefore, you can impart more spin on the ball. So if you have good technique I think this is like even more of a benefit. Like people who play tennis or, you know, really drill, like you can hone this in and just like you leave the ball on there just a fraction of a second longer and you're going to hit with like crazy spin and that thing's going to dip like crazy.
Yeah. Great explanation. Yeah, man, it's fucking awesome, man. It feels so good to talk about it. God damn it.
You're telling us it's been 18 months, I think.
Like the first time, I have so many thoughts about this paddle because like the first time I played with it was at Worlds. It was I think I was like hitting with Pickleball Will, and I was like, oh, this is a 14. And I never play with a 14. I'm always like a 16 guy. So I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then Will's, the first thing he says is like, oh yeah, it's like plush, right? And I started hitting him. I was like, what the fuck are you talking about? No, it's not. And then, of course, after I played with it more, I was like, oh, okay, now it's starting to make sense. And I remember Nam was like, swing through, don't shorten like your swing path so much. And so it's like different adjustments. It's not like a proton adjustment at all. I will say that.
What is a proton adjustment? I've never.
There's like a 2 to 3 week break-in period.
Oh.
Yeah, it's like very extreme, and it's just like, yeah, I couldn't deal with it.
Okay.
It wasn't for me. But hey, it worked out for some people, of course. But yeah, like this paddle, yeah, and then I've been maining it since then, I guess. Like, of course, I've tried other paddles out, but this is the one that's like, okay, this is definitely feels like so similar to my game. And there's like different. Do you guys know, or can you guys explain the differences between the shapes and like maybe why one type of player might want one shape versus another? And also, actually, before we forget, talk about the durability of using like a foam. I think that's the most important part.
Yeah, so before I definitely want Garrett to explain the shapes and who should play with what, but so talking durability and then actually something you said before, I just wanted to clarify. So we've been talking like, all right, it does take some time to get used to it, which is valid because the technology is new, it's a different paddle. But to be clear, the paddle will basically play the same like right out of the box. It's just you personally getting used to it. Whereas I think you're mentioning some other brands and there's a bunch out there that have, you know, call it this break-in period where you're simultaneously trying to get used to the paddle like we talked about, but also the paddle is also changing over time. And I think that is the big difference here, in addition to how it plays and a bunch of other things, is the durability. Like our core is built to withstand, you know, all of the, you know, the punishment of playing pickleball, and it's going to start basically the same as it's going to end, which is what you talked about, durability. And that was, you know, what Garrett and our engineer worked to design from the beginning, was preventing core crush. That was the biggest thing. And core crush is really what's happening when these paddles are getting hotter over time and sort of like breaking in. And so this paddle, the foam that we've used, I mean, it's 100% foam core. It is extremely durable, extremely dense. It can't core crush to some extent, and
to any extent.
To any extent,
it
thank you.
It literally physically can't core crush.
Is that
we can,
inside?
Yeah. So if you want to grab it, we can show you.
Sick.
So this is the core of one of the shapes right here.
That's the Model 1.
Yeah. So if you want to touch on, you can grab it. You can touch on, I guess Brian was asking about what the different shapes, and then maybe touch on the core too. Yeah.
So this is the Model 1 shape. I mean, the shapes are the same as, well, almost the same. So Model 1 and the Model 3 are the same as the X series, 1X and 3X. So the 1X this was our first shape that we came out with as a company. So this is the 5.5 inch handle, and you know, kind of the go-to for singles, I guess. This is what I still use. I just like the length and the leverage on it, and I like hitting ground strokes, so that's why I like this paddle.
Most of our pros use this shape as well.
Yeah.
For whatever reason, a lot of them come from tennis. That might be part of it, but a lot of them use this shape.
This is the most similar to a tennis racket, obviously. And then the 3 is, excuse me. Essentially, we kept the same overall length of this, and took away a 1/4 inch off the handle and added that to the face. So you're getting a little bit bigger sweet spot, a little bit, you know, just larger contact area, but still maintaining that overall length. And then the 2, the 2 TruFoam, whatever, the Model 2 Genesis, we changed slightly from the 2X because we added a 1/4 inch onto the handle of the TruFoam 2 and pulled in the sides a little bit, so it's slightly narrower, and now it has the same handle length as the Model 3.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it just makes it a little bit a little more user friendly, a little like, I guess, like it feels a little more aerodynamic, and we've actually seen a few.
Sorry,
we might need to pause.
Describe what's happening that you can't see. The dog, our dog Ella, she grabbed a toy and she's whipping her head and basically hit the camera with it, and now squeezing the speaker.
All right.
So I'm gonna move her into a different room. Okay, come on, let's go. You can come back.
Did Lindsay jump in and jump out real quick?
I think she went through the garage. I don't know where her computer must have been. She must have left it like on the table. She was.
Oh, crazy.
I don't know how she did that. All right, Ella, you did decent for a lot of it. You just got tired and wanted
You just
to
put her
play.
in the back.
Yeah, I'll put her upstairs or back there. Sorry.
Bye.
We'll get some shots of you with the toy. Don't worry. Come on, Ella, let's go. Come here. Let's see. I'm trying to think where she'll make the least amount of noise. Probably have to go upstairs because we'll hear her.
Go. Go.
Come on.
Go.
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 Very fun. Let's go.
How far did y'all grow up from here?
It's about like 20 minutes north.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. And then where were the fires?
The fires they're about an hour north.
Oh,
Yeah. Yeah, as the crow flies, but like to get to the Palisades, you have to take essentially like the freeway, like you're going to LA, and then you cut out west to the coast. So it takes a long time to get there.
On your flight home out of LAX, well,
You might be able
dark.
to see them.
I don't know. You
They're
might be able to see something.
Pretty much out, right? They're like 80%
Yeah,
contained.
You might see it, or you would just see, if you knew where to look, maybe you would see like an area that's just like completely dark.
Yeah, sketchy.
Has that made you guys? Is that like brought any doubt or reconsideration to staying here, or
Like in
even
California, you mean?
Yeah, in California, and also even like business in California. As I heard that's like changed.
I don't think so.
I mean,
for us.
taxes suck.
Yeah. I mean, doing business in California, for a lot of reasons, can be challenging. There's also a ton of benefits more from a lifestyle standpoint. Garrett and I grew up in Southern California. Our families are here. All our friends are here. So it would take a lot to leave. Yeah, I mean, and our employees are remote as well. So we kind of have the benefit of, being able to hire wherever we need to, hire the best talent.
Yeah.
And we just happen to live here, which, like Garrett said, maybe is unfortunate from a tax perspective. But outside of that, I mean, you said it best. I think you landed, Texas was snowing somehow.
Yeah.
You landed, got in the car, and it was 71, 72 degrees. And you said, this doesn't get old or something like that.
It doesn't, man. California is great. I love California.
Year-round pickleball.
Dude.
Year-round outdoor pickleball, I guess. So, yeah, it's pretty solid.
Yeah.
All right, I'll just finish up on what I was describing. Model 2, changed that a little bit, and some of our athletes have started switching over to that, or at least like trying it. I don't know what the start to people switching over, but like Nam kind of called it. He was like, when he made the adjustment to the paddle, he was like, dude, this thing's gonna be super popular, just watch. And we're like, no way, dude, not that many people use the 2. I mean, I still can't get used to that feel. It's weird to me, but people are using it, and they're really liking it. And I don't know, maybe it was James's comment on socials or what, but like people are starting to give it a shot. And also like so many of you guys, like all the content producers and stuff, you guys are using that kind of more standard shape, right?
I've only been a 2.
Yeah.
A 2. A 2's dope.
Yeah, people love it. I mean, for doubles, it It makes a lot of sense, especially from a more technical standpoint that all the reviewers get into those, specs. It does make a lot of sense.
Because we suck. We need a bigger sweet spot.
Yeah, I think that's mostly the reason.
Dude, so that right there, all that black is foam.
So this whole thing is one piece of foam. It's injection molded, so it comes out of the mold with this shape.
Is it just me, or like the perimeter of that is similar to like what paddles are now, but the center, no paddles are like that, right? It's
Right.
usually like that PPP or like the plastic, like the honeycomb cores.
Right. Yeah. No. Yeah. The honeycomb obviously looks completely different from this. This is part of what the R&D process, over a year. It took so long to figure out a shape that would work. That felt like, this material isn't easy to work with at all. Like, there's a lot of complications that can happen with this, and so it took a while to figure out what felt the best, and this provided for like the biggest sweet spot and the most like, I guess the best like overall like that dwell that we're talking about. This shape kind of provided that the best. And then as you can imagine, like this design has to get bigger or like wider, at least for a Model 2, right? So then that's where you get that benefit of the sweet spot if it's getting even like wider out here for a 2 shape, stuff like that. So
And then the 3 is just a longer face, so you have the benefit of a slightly larger sweet spot as well.
Yeah.
A little bit more forgiving than this model.
So
I think
What goes in those empty areas?
nothing.
Oh,
Yeah, they remain open. I guess we refer to them as kind of voids that are left there on purpose.
it's partially, some of them are like performance, some of them are also weight reduction because the core itself is heavier than honeycomb.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, we already talked about this. Like it's foam, obviously, like we've talked about. It's 100% foam. There's no other stabilizers or other companies are using kind of ribs or stringers with foam or honeycomb. It's just 100% foam. So I think for us, that's why you'll see on the product page, we're kind of coining this as Gen 4 or Generation 4 technology. You could argue that the kind of generations, kind of numbering the generations between Gen 1, 2, 3, 4, and onwards isn't really a great system. It kind of just came from, I think, the paddle reviewer world. Someone coined it. Maybe, I think Chris was originally the one that said maybe Gen 2 or 3, and then everyone jumped on it. But we think this is differentiated enough. Gen 3 is, I believe the way John coined it was Gen 3 is foam enhanced paddles, and this is completely foam. So it's not foam enhanced. It is 100% foam. The other foam enhanced Gen 3 paddles are usually putting foam around the edges, for example, with honeycomb, or they're running stringers. They're doing all kinds of different things. And in some ways, this is way simpler. It was complicated to do, but it is a way simpler core because there aren't different materials you're trying to fuse together. And so with a lot of those paddles, that break-in period or the breakage or core crush and all these things that are happening is because you have foam fused with, say, honeycomb, and that's a weak point, and that starts to break down over time. So by simplifying and going with 100% foam, we don't have that same issue.
got it. That's interesting. Innovation is always like so interesting because it's easy to look back on because you would be like, why would they have gone with like the hybrid model of like plastic and foam and not just gone straight to foam? But it's like, it's obvious now, but like in hindsight, but it's
I think, this is obviously speculation. I can't speak to like what specific companies are doing from an R&D standpoint other than ourselves. But I think it was just the most logical step forward. Like most paddles used honeycomb. So therefore it was probably the lowest, or like the easiest thing to go after is like, let's just add something else to the honeycomb to make it play different. So you just add foam.
Resistance,
Yeah, exactly. And so it took us 18 months to develop this. And part of that was because we basically threw out the old blueprint on how to make cores and started from scratch and built something that we thought was really good for pickleball. And that takes a long time, and way longer than we anticipated, frankly. But
I think
we finally got here.
I think there were like some regulatory things too. I think like even we were kind of like scared to use foam at first because we didn't know like what the actual like. I know we knew what the rules were, but we didn't really know like how lenient they would be with them, and I think a lot's changed in the past year, where it's more of like, hey, don't use this, don't use this. It's more of like, use whatever you want as long as it is compliant.
Like I believe USAP used to have EVA foam on some sort of banned list. I think that was the case, and that's the example.
It was like a full like 3D wrap EVA you couldn't use or something.
They basically outright said you can't use that technology. But to Garrett's point, now everybody has shifted to, here are the specifications you have to stay within, like PB core and these other things we're talking about, which makes more sense. It's like, go be innovative. Who cares? As long as it's not dangerous, who cares what materials you use, as long as, it
doesn't break down and it stays within the parameters.
Yeah.
And that was one of the biggest selling points when we were talking to USAP about using this material, or like the whole idea about this concept is longevity. And this material lasts so much longer than honeycomb.
And honeycomb is it's a subpar material in comparison to this, like for many reasons. It was just being used because whoever decided to use it from the beginning, and everyone sort of copycatted and jumped on that, and it was an easy, fairly reasonably priced method of doing this, and it was pretty good. And so I think this year we're going to see a ton of companies continuing down that Gen 3 path, and then a ton trying to jump into the, quote, Gen 4 path of the full foam cores, because I think you just have a lot more flexibility, and long term, it's a way better material to do what we're trying to do. And I guess one thing I did mention, EVA. To be clear, this is not EVA. It's not PMI, which I think is also foam that's used in other paddles. It's something completely different that we haven't seen in any other paddle in the market, and so I can't tell you exactly what it is because that's part of the secret sauce. But it isn't those foams, I guess.
Good to know. Damn, that's all. That's awesome that like they changed their viewpoint on like materials. That's how it should be. If you want to like encourage our innovation, just give them parameters, but then don't tell them how to do it.
And to UPA's credit, that's one of the things they're like biggest on. Like they're a lot more, at least in the conversations we've had with them, they're a lot more down that path of like, use it ever you want as long as it's like,
if it passes,
it passes. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And like that will just like encourage good innovation. Like no one's gonna be like, oh, I'm gonna go the route of using the most expensive materials and like like with a short shelf life. It's like everyone's gonna want to use the best materials and give the best experience for the end consumer. Because I remember like a year and a half ago, I was talking to Daryl from Vatic Pro, and everyone was like up in arms about how just the honeycomb cores don't last super long, and they're like, oh man, this sucks. Like there's no reason for us to be paying like $200, $300 for a paddle that's going to last like 6 months. And then now this is like, it's only because of the parameters that we're given that we're able to like get to this point where now, I mean, have you guys been testing any paddles for like a certain duration and been like, it still hasn't like crushed or like the foam hasn't deteriorated, like compromised?
Yeah. No, I mean, we have a cannon at our factory. It's not set up for PB core, unfortunately. That's a goal for sure. But right now it's a destructive test cannon. And so we just sit paddles on there for hours at a time, firing every like 3 or 5 seconds at, how fast did we get up to? Was it 80?
I think so. I mean, it's far faster than anyone can hit a ball in a paddle. Yeah.
It holds up for sure.
And I think, we've been testing it a ton with our pros, our athletes, our friends, ourselves, all of those things, and haven't had issues. And we're confident in this. And basically, the thing I would say is the core is going to outlast, frankly, the other materials. And so it's great that we've improved this. It's great that we have all the different, playing attributes with this. But like most players are probably going to like really wreck their edge guard after a period of time, or not be happy with something else before the core is going to fail, which is great, because I think a lot of these paddles, it's the reverse. It's like your paddle looks brand new but then the core is broken, and it's like, then what do you do at that point? Yeah.
I also don't want to be on record saying we have an indestructible paddle. Like,
Yeah.
if any, like we get some returns back, and
Yes.
and like people are like, oh, my paddle like broke in half. We're like, how'd you do that, man? They're like, well, I was falling and I like used it to brace my fall, and like that kind of stuff. Like, things can still happen. Like, your paddle can still break no matter what. But we're trying to solve for like standard core crush like use, you know.
Good point.
Yeah.
That, again, it's not obvious to some people, so sometimes you got to explain that stuff.
Yeah.
How do people know that this won't get banned or like overturned?
Oof, that's a good one. I think for us, we're so confident in that kind of destructive method. You know, there's a lot of pressure on us and similar companies that are trying to push the limit to not, you know, like spoil the opportunity. Do you know what I mean? Like, we're given some leeway here to try some different stuff and be, you know, forward thinking. And it's on us to be responsible about, like, really honest about the testing that we're doing, right? And making sure that these paddles really are like maintaining that same performance throughout the lifespan of the paddle, you know. And I think by doing that and just, you know, being super transparent with the governing bodies and who are testing these paddles, like, you know, being super transparent about just, wow, I just lost my train of thought, but about you know, what we're trying to do here, and we're not trying to like cheat the system somehow, right? I think that's the way, just to like be super honest, transparent, and the paddle should, you know, just prove itself, right? And it shouldn't, if we go down that path, like, there's no reason that the governing body should have to step in and say, wait, why are we allowing this, you know?
And also, just from I think that's answers the question from a philosophical standpoint and like where we stand and how we work closely with these governing bodies. But from a actual numbers standpoint, like, this paddle, all three models of the TruFoam Genesis are obviously USAP approved, but also within that, they're PB Core 43 certified, meaning they're essentially approved for the future. So we have upcoming in July a handful of paddles that are being sunsetted off the list for PB Core reasons, and then they plan on kind of ratcheting, as far as I'm aware, ratcheting PB Core down even tighter in the future. And basically, we have gotten these approved for the tightest future numbers for PB Core for USAP. So I can tell you without a doubt, from a USAP standpoint, like, we're approved far into the future, so no one has to worry about that. From a UPAA standpoint, there's a little bit more up in the air, not because of our paddle, but more because they're figuring out how they want to do everything, which is fine. But again, like we mentioned, they seem most focused on basically all the same thing USAP is doing, plus the destructive testing. And so because we're so confident in the lifespan and the like anti-destructive properties of the core, I don't think there will be any problem. If we're having problems, every paddle company is having problems, and that doesn't make any sense.
We're going to kind of go away from the TruFoam
Yeah.
to a degree, but was the very first carbon, the one that got banned, was that the first, like, it wasn't the first raw carbon fiber paddle, was it?
No.
What was different about that? Like, was it not?
So there were two things that we did different from the first company. I don't know. I probably won't. Whatever. We won't say the company. I think most people know what it is. There were two things that come to my head that were different. One was we introduced the elongated shape with the raw carbon fiber. That hadn't been done. And the other thing is we came out with a 16 millimeter. Before, it was like a 13 millimeter square paddle. That was the first raw carbon fiber, to my knowledge.
Yeah, so we were basically like combining this very new technology and like surface grit roughness with a shape that all the elite players at the time, coming from tennis in particular, like wanted to play with. And so like that combo like really put us on the map, not to mention the overall branding of it. I mean, Garrett was pretty adamant from the beginning, and it was just like simplicity, basically, from a branding standpoint. It was sleek, all black, looked really cool compared to the brightly colored, pretty kooky looking paddles of like the old days of pickleball. It's funny because things have maybe come full circle now, but before we came on the map, everything was crazy colors, and this black paddle really stood out. It was sleek and performance looking and sexy and all of these things. And
before it was like, if you saw a black paddle that was like pretty much all black on the court, you're like, that's a carbon. You know what I mean? And then everything started changing to raw carbon fiber, and we're like, crap, we can't get away with that anymore, because now there's so many raw carbon fiber paddles. Now nobody knows if that's a carbon or not.
And we had Garrett and I had this like internal conversation. I remember this like to this day. Not a conflict, but almost like where Garrett was like, loved the simplicity of it, which I totally appreciate because it looked cool. And I had to come from a marketing standpoint. It's like, now there's like 10 brands that have copied us or done something similar, and it all looks the same. Like no one can tell. Like we sponsor these athletes. And why are we even sponsoring them? Because no one can tell what paddle they're playing with. And so we have to brand it even though we don't want to. We just kind of had to. And actually, I have one of the, I'll get it, the original kind of like OG ones that Garrett first made. I mean,
so dope.
To everyone on here, this is not going to look kind of like we just talked about it. Here's a black paddle that one of the OG ones has like our logo.
It's like laser etched on there.
Laser etched, teeny, tiny. I mean, it's like a half inch here down here at the bottom.
You really did
it's
know,
like super
though.
small.
You knew it was a carbon because everyone was playing with the Franklin. It was the Ben Johns Franklin. And then that came out, or like that came out. People were playing with the Ben Johns Franklin, the Selkirk, and then like that, you'd see that, and just no other paddle looked like it.
Yeah, for a few months there, it was pretty cool to see like a black paddle, and you're like, oh shoot, that's a carbon. Yeah. But then I think like Engage came out with the Pursuit pretty soon after.
Yeah. The reason I brought it up is because you guys had mentioned like the paddle erasers. Like Garrett, I think you were saying that someone said that you're the first one to come up with that.
Yeah, it was actually my dad. He's in the like the abrasive cutting tool industry and stuff, and they use these erasers to clean big like grinding wheels. And so it was actually his idea, and so we were the first company to come out with it.
So I guess like I just
and now there's I don't know 500 different ones on Amazon if you go look.
Yeah, there's like that. There's TruFoam. There's like introducing a 16 millimeter shape. So it's just like different things of just introducing things that just spotting like things that just aren't there in the market, and then just providing it. Like where does that come from like maybe just as carbon, maybe it's like the personality of carbon. I don't know.
I mean, it's kind of Carbon's origin story. I mean, it's Garrett. Garrett handles all the R&D. He's the one that invents all of these things. And so I mean, I've known Garrett since first grade. We've been friends. And so he brings a lot of the product development and R&D, and then I'm more of the kind of overall like marketing side of things based on my past experience. But I would say like having known Garrett since we were kids, like he's always been sort of a tinkerer, if that's the right way to say it. Like he's always been a hands-on like problem solver, like, oh, this doesn't exist or this doesn't work well, let me just fix it. And so I think that personality like came out through that first paddle and then Carbon in general. And it's super valuable to the company, and it's something that we look for when we hire employees or anything. Is like, I think it's always been like we want the products as much as possible to do the talking for us almost. It's like if someone has a great experience, they're going to tell all of their friends, or if it's innovative or cool. I think that was great in the beginning. Now it's gotten so crowded and it's continuing to get so crowded in the pickleball paddle and gear space that I think we have to do that, plus have really strong marketing and get the word out there. But that was kind of the philosophy from the very beginning.
Yeah, how do you guys like stay ahead then? So you have like TruFoam, you obviously have that next thing that you guys are working on, and sometimes it's not even just paddles. You guys like, it's a fucking dog toy. It's the shape of, I'm grabbing it. There's like, not to say that this is like breakthrough, but it's just like coming up with, you guys just keep coming with like random products, and I actually like that. It's like cool. You just like solving different problems, right?
Yeah, that's like kind of just my favorite thing to do is just if like kind of what Kyle said, like if something like if there's something I see that can be done better, like I just go out and try to get it done. And obviously that's not making a dog toy. Like that was like kind of like a joke for one Christmas, and it ended up like taking off. We're like, oh, sweet.
I mean, we really like dogs, both of us, so it kind of made sense.
Yeah,
and it's kind of funny.
I think it started like my dog like started like trying to eat like my paddle, like my main paddle, and I was like, okay, now we need a dog toy, that kind of thing, you know.
So if you got a dog, you got to get one. It doesn't matter if you like the TruFoam paddle. Just
that's
get
the original
TruFoam. It's
TruFoam.
also cute if you have a baby, and it's funny to make them hold a little paddle.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
Baby toys, dude. That's the next.
No baby toys. There's so much There's so much
thought
regulation.
about that. Yeah, no.
I do not want to get anywhere near a baby toy.
Yeah, really?
Yeah, that's crazy. Oh yeah.
Oh,
stay away.
Okay.
But yeah, man. I mean, and like what Kyle was saying at this point, it's about like, obviously we're trying to innovate, but we're trying to like foresee trends as well, and that's what Kyle's really good at too. He's like just a marketing like guru, you know, and he can kind of see the direction things are heading before they really start taking off that way. So that's another way we can kind of really try to stay, at least like not maybe all the time ahead of the game, but you know, pretty relevant on the bubble.
It's fucking great, man. You don't see a lot of those. I don't need to name other founders or like other brands, but there's definitely like other guys who remind me that you guys are like all in the similar boat. It's definitely the minority versus the majority. The majority is comfortable kind of like just waiting for someone to come out with something, copying it, maybe put their spin on it. But it's cool because it's not just the product. It's also the way you guys look at the business too. Like, you guys tell me about the Amazon stuff. The Amazon thing was crazy. I remember just seeing that pop up on my feed, and I was like, wait, I know that brand. Why are they in like an Amazon ad? Because I was like, yeah, I haven't seen any pickleball brands in an actual Amazon ad that's run through their account on Instagram. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. And then I saw the content on YouTube. It's just like, yeah, super cool.
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, you know, in terms of where do we sell our paddles, we obviously sell on our website. We have a bunch of great retail partners, and we also sell through Amazon as a marketplace. I would say, you know, I guess most people are Amazon Prime customers at this point, probably have a Prime account. So there's some convenience there, and we wanted our products to be live on there as well. And so, you know, we set all that up and we run that Amazon account, and I have personally like a pretty strong relationship with some of the people on the Amazon kind of behind the scenes, like marketing and PR teams from a previous business. And so they just reached out and they wanted to tell a story about, a brand that was kind of, you know, a newer brand that was a small business trying to build things up. And I, you know, pitched them Carbon, and it was a good fit. And so they did it was like a week of shooting, which was kind of intense. Like they went to a PPA tournament for 2 full days and shot there. They shot at our office, at our houses. We did a team building like bonfire thing that they shot at. It was intense from a shooting standpoint, but it was a cool experience. They helped promote the brand, and you know, free marketing is maybe the best kind of marketing. So that was cool, and it was something we learned a lot from, and the team enjoyed it too. It was cool for them to be a part of that and kind of see all of their hard work come to fruition and be appreciated by, you know, Amazon, I guess.
It's just good for the sport too. Like any paddle brand or any like brand or business in the sport should be like happy to see like, oh shit, that's, even if it's a competitor, you're like, well, damn, they're being shown in Amazon. Amazon's like massive.
Yeah, I mean,
the best were the comments on the Amazon Instagram ad. If you looked at those comments, it was hilarious because it's being targeted to people that don't play pickleball.
Oh, okay. What were they saying?
People are like, what did I do in a past life to deserve this ad? Like stuff like that. They're just like hating on pickleball so much. They're like, this is the lamest thing ever. Like, I don't know.
And we sort of commented and like kind of trolled those people because it's kind of fun.
Oh, did you?
Like a little bit to like stir the pot. Like if they're never going to be our customer anyways if they hate pickleball, so it's kind of fun.
You might get some respect out of them.
Yeah, and a lot of people were also talking trash on Garrett, which was funny. I thought was hilarious. They were comparing him to one of the Fast and the Furious characters.
Paul
they said he
Walker.
looked like him.
No,
not Paul Walker.
Not Paul Walker?
Jesse, the engineer dude. They're
I
like,
loved Jesse. The Jetta? He had the Jetta.
Yeah, the
And
Jetta.
he lost at the race wars in the desert. Do you remember that?
He almost got killed.
Yeah, he got shot.
Well, no, spoiler alert.
If you haven't seen Fast and Furious by
Did
now,
he die?
oh shoot.
I think so.
Yeah,
Wasn't
dude.
that the whole
I mean,
thing?
I didn't see like Fast 7 or
Yeah, maybe
8,
he comes back in a later one, but I'm pretty
in
sure
the first one you
original-
are to be
Yeah.
to believe that he died. Yeah.
Oh, dude, I love.
So they were
his
just
Jetta.
posting like Jesse like gifs on the ads. It was really funny. I enjoyed that quite a bit. I'm glad I apparently didn't look.
It gave me a
like
Halloween
anyone.
costume for that year though.
Damn, that's awesome. Sorry, you guys have a hummingbird outside.
I know, I've been watching that thing. It's kind of cool.
Dope. California, man.
That's
right.
right, baby.
California.
No snow here.
Damn. That's fucking sick. Damn, I can't believe it.
Yeah, it was funny.
Oh,
man.
we'll send you some screenshots. I have it saved somewhere.
I'll attach it to the footage.
Yeah.
We went to
Yeah.
Amazon had us go to some event that they put on with a bunch of different sellers and like vendors and people there, and they bought a bunch of paddles and they just gave them away to people, and the people were so excited. They didn't even know what they were getting, but they didn't realize the value of what they were getting. But the attendees of that conference were stoked. They got
That's awesome.
custom carbon paddles, which was cool.
Do you guys do that stuff often? Because like I know Lynn, your mom, was talking about how you guys like will sponsor the Kappa event, but you guys also like created these special paddles for like what kids to use.
Yeah, I can speak to that, but I would say in general, from the beginning of the inception of Carbon, we haven't done an insane amount of in-person events, just because we're a super lean team. Like it's, there's a handful of us, and it's a family business basically. Like Garrett and I have grown up together, and my wife works in the business. You mentioned Lynn, Garrett's mom, and a handful of other employees, and so bandwidth was a tough one. Like we just didn't have people that we could send to different tournaments and stuff like that. We're starting to try to hire for that and change things a little bit. But like Kappa, we sponsor, which is a local California tournament, and they do a bunch of events.
Dude, their YouTube channel or whoever records those is sick. I love watching those tournaments.
Really? I've never even seen it. I got to check it out.
Yeah,
Because we
they're
usually
good.
just like go in person. But we're trying to do more of that. We sponsor a handful of tournaments throughout the country, in addition to like PPA, obviously. But it's something we're trying to ramp up. And then, yeah, one thing that we have coming, I don't know when we're going to officially announce it, but this is what you're referring to, is the Carbon Cares program is what we've coined it. I assume that's going to be the name that we're going to roll with, but maybe it'll change.
You have the domain, right?
I did buy the domain,
So it's open.
No one tried to steal it, basically. I'm glad I bought it before we recorded this. So yeah, it probably something similar to this. That's what I was showing Brian earlier. So if you can't see from this far away, it's a wooden paddle. And the idea
Gen
here,
5?
Yeah, Gen 5 for sure. True wood coming to a store near you. $450. Get ready. No, so the idea here was like, we were thinking like, all right, how do we give back to the pickleball community, or what do we want to do from a charitable standpoint? And what we kept coming back to was like, the thing that matters most to the pickleball community and to us is just getting more people to play. Like once you expose them to the sport, a huge number of them keep playing, and it changes their lives for the better. I mean, you hear that story over and over again, right? Across all ages. And so the thought here was like, how do we get paddles in the hands of young people across the board, but ideally in like underserved communities in particular, in the US and then maybe internationally as well. And so the thought process here was like, let's make a really, really durable paddle that kids could basically trash, little kids, and it would play decent enough so that they could learn the sport and play in PE or after school programs or whatever it is. And that was this. So it's a wood paddle. It's weighted to be similar to a normal paddle, so these kids can get used to it. Honestly, it plays kind of good. It's not terrible.
Do you have 4 of those?
No, this is the only prototype. But when we play later, you can play with this, and we'll see how it goes. And the handle feels pretty good. It's not bad, but because it's wood, like this thing is, I don't want to say, you already said we can't say indestructible when it comes to paddles. Same thing here, but like basically it would be really hard to break this. You can scratch it on the ground. Like, yeah, it might get misshapen, but a kid can play with it. And so the idea here is it's more of a quantity play than quality play. And I don't mean that in a negative way. I mean that in
It's like the Tom's model.
Yeah, we want as many people to play pickleball as possible. We don't need to give them a $200 paddle that is, they're going to destroy if they keep banging it on the ground. So this fits that. And so like Garrett said, Many companies in other industries have done this. Tom's did it in shoes, was the first one to do it. Our plan is to probably follow a similar model just because it makes a lot of logical sense from a charitable and marketing standpoint. And our plan is to have, these paddles out there where we can essentially donate one of these for every paddle that we sell wherever we sell it. So kind of the idea is like at the end of a quarter or a month or something like that, we accumulate all the sales, place a PO for all these paddles, and then we just, ship these donated paddles to as many schools and programs and nonprofits that we can find. So once we launch that, we'll obviously be blasting it on social and needing people to sign up to tell us the best places to be donating paddles to. But I'm sure that people will be excited to take them and start spreading the word of pickleball, I guess. So
are they USAP approved?
No.
UPA.
Yeah, it's only for pros.
I mean, dude, that's fucking awesome, man. Like, I think like when we look at problems, like if I like ran a paddle business, like shit, I want to donate stuff, but I don't have the material or like the capital to do it. So it's like, what's the next like best option? And that's like a great idea. It's like, oh, just scale whatever we're doing down, and if we were to scale it down, just scale down the material, scale down the cost, and it would come down to something like that. And you're right, it is like little kids, and they just like, who knows, they might pick it up again, but in some cases, some kids just want to play once and then like might toss it over to the side and might not pick it up for like another year, right? So it's like you also don't want these materials, like some of these other materials, higher grade materials, to like just waste away, or I don't know if it's like pollution or not, but like wood is, I don't know if it's like biodegradable.
I mean, it's much more sustainable than a lot of materials that the industry uses. And also, I think the key here is like what we want it to do is like be in after school programs or different organizations where it's not even necessarily the kid taking it home. It's part of their program. So like the program will pass it on from kid to kid. These will last years instead of, less time with some other paddles. And, this is going to hopefully change the life of, multiple kids across, a handful of years, is kind of the ultimate goal with this sort of thing. But it's brand new for us, so we don't know how it's going to go, but I'm pretty optimistic that there's a market and a need for it. And these paddles make more sense than just like, full board normal paddles that people are playing with regularly.
Yeah, no, it's sweet. I didn't know about this. What is the deal with these guys?
These are our pickleballs that we just soft launched to our ambassadors like a few weeks ago. The Carbon C40 pickleball. I mean, it's worth mentioning because it's something that I think a lot of the people that buy our products like are looking for. So that's kind of, we were trying to service that. We also have a ton of ambassadors that are coaches, put on events, and we wanted to give them an option for that as well. I think with this, balls are an interesting market.
Yeah.
We've avoided it for the longest time because it's truthfully,
You're never going to please everyone.
You can't please everyone. It's pretty hard to truly innovate. It's expensive. Like, you're not per ball per se, but like overall, it's an expensive product to make. You're shipping air. Like, all these are made in Asia.
Yeah.
And
There's not a lot of margin on it.
Like, there's not a lot of money to be made. And also, it seems like, at least at the high level, people are buying the balls that they have to play with in a tournament. And the only reason they're playing with those balls, most likely, is because they sponsor the tour. So we don't have any immediate plans to sponsor one of the big tours because it doesn't really make business sense for us, we don't think. Also, it's extremely expensive. Like, we're not going to pay millions of dollars to go be the ball of PPA. But we wanted something, a very good, durable ball that people will like to play with for our customers that, it's great for drilling, great for rec, great for the coaches that we sponsor, all of that.
Yeah, like sell them in 100 packs. So like our ambassadors and coaches can just grab 100, throw them in their ball caddy, and
And we can sell them for way cheaper, especially because we do so much business online. We can sell them for far cheaper when people buy large pack sizes. I mean, it's just, it makes the unit economics work way better when you're ordering 100 pack and we're shipping it to you once, like we pick and pack and ship it, than trying to ship you, 5 of these over the next 6 months. So like, we try to give pretty good bulk pricing so people can, people know that they're going to get a bunch of balls and need a bunch of balls. So just buy it now, and it saves everybody.
How do you guys know like what to, oh, sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna say what's kind of cool about those two. You can't see it on camera, but the our logo is lasered into those. So we also we like how like the X40, right? That you can always tell it's a Franklin because the X is on there. That's the one thing that I hate about other balls is like even like the all the tour balls right now. You're like wait, is this a Vulcan? Like I think it's a Vulcan, like because mostly it rubs off. Even like Zeros and stuff.
It's printed on the outside.
It's printed and it rubs off. Yeah.
You hit it a few times, it scratches off essentially.
So that was one thing that I really wanted to make sure we had was something that's a little more, whatever.
It's a good idea.
Stay
like
on there longer.
The defining mark, because like a Selkirk, you usually know what those are like now since they have different shaped holes.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly. Yeah.
What do these play like? If anyone was curious and they're like, "Damn, I want to try them out," maybe.
I don't know. I think they're they're close to a Vulcan. They're like in between. I think like a Dura and a Vulcan. I don't know. It's right now. It's so tough to tell because like we've been playing. Like I've been playing with these like at night when it's a little colder and it like they feel a little bit like how the plastic is gonna feel different in the heat. So, but yeah, I mean, they for all that we've been testing on them, they don't crack. So they've been even in the cold.
I think durability was like the biggest thing that we cared about, frankly.
Oh, really?
I mean, because it's a product that we can't like overly innovate, that we were not focused on nearly as much as paddles. It was like we just want to give people something that's consistent, that they're not going to blow too much money on just having balls break constantly. Like, that's a pretty bad experience for the customer.
If you can figure out a ball that can play like a tournament ball but be cheaper and more durable, would be like fucking great.
Well, I mean, you have a handful of brands that are trying to do it. Like obviously you mentioned Selkirk, they have their warranty on their balls, and then what is that? I haven't even the lifetime ball and some of these other.
That ball is
players.
crazy. Have you felt the lifetime ball?
No.
I don't know what they're doing on that thing, but it's like really cool. However they're doing the plastic, it's the only ball like, and we're not going to invest in that type of R&D to figure that out because it's just not our lane, right? But like you like most of the balls, like you press in on them and the plastic kind of like slowly reforms, right? Like if you put your thumb into it. These lifetime balls, you stick your thumb into it and the plastic immediately shoots back. Like it's insane.
Damn, have you played with them?
Yeah, I played at an indoor lifetime with them, which is what I think they're kind of meant for. Yeah, they're fast.
Oh shit.
Yeah.
It's a good idea on their
Lifetime Fitness, obviously. Like you knew that, but for people watching, which is interesting that Lifetime Fitness is investing in
they're huge in
technology. Yeah, they're converting every facility, everything they possibly can.
It's a good move on their part.
I mean, they're smart or lucky or whatever. They've done a good job, jumping in on pickleball. And I mean, you've been to the St. Clemente Lifetime, right?
Yeah.
That's one of the best facilities I've ever seen. Like, I can't think of anything better in the country that I've been to for pickleball. Yeah. That place is. Yeah. If it was closer, I would for sure be a member.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that place is so nice.
Yeah, the view is insane too.
Oh.
Yeah.
Damn. Yeah, that place is dreamy. Man, California. What was I gonna ask? Oh yeah, like so how do you make the decision then of like, all right, the paddles are pretty obvious, but then you guys came with the paddle erasers. That's pretty obvious too. The glasses those seem not so obvious, or maybe it's something that is experienced more in California. The balls is not so obvious.
Yeah, I can speak to the glasses because that's been one of the bigger call it categories for us the last year or so. I think, earlier on, Garrett was talking about this. He mentioned, he kind of drives the R&D and the product development for the company. And then what I've tried to do is help give him the resources, like data, to back up his decision-making. So he has really good instincts, but some of the stuff, admittedly, he might have a blind spot to. So Garrett plays pickleball at a really high level. And at the time, high-level players were not wearing glasses at all, not even close. It wasn't even really part of the conversation, but I could see it in the, frankly, like lower to middle level players, like where I'm playing, and also online. Yeah, exactly. Online, in like various Facebook groups, Reddit, all over the place. I could see that there was a lot more conversation around eye protection as the game was speeding up. It just made sense. We already spent, half hour of this talking about power paddles. well, people are getting hit in the face and the eyes and actually having serious injuries. It sounds crazy because it's a wiffle ball, but it's true. People are like detaching retinas and all kinds of crazy stuff and like losing eyes in some circumstances. And so that coupled with like doing research online through a bunch of different methods, I could see like search volume on pickleball eyewear, pickleball glasses, whatever, fill in the blank, going way up over the last, a year plus, probably like, 12 to 18 months ago, saw the trends going that direction and basically convinced Garrett, like, look at this. This is going to be a market. And the only glasses at the time that existed for pickleball, in our opinions, were not great. They looked like you went to Home Depot and bought safety glasses. And while that's very effective for blocking the ball from hitting your face,
You got to want to wear them.
Not very cool to wear, let's just say. And they're a little bit clunky, heavy. They're not really like optimized for the sport of pickleball or really anything in life other than protecting your eyes.
Anything.
Which, it has a time and a place, but we were just like, all right, let's pickleballify glasses and make them for the sport. And then as we were developing that, you saw other big sunglass companies coming into the space.
Oh.
But it was the reverse issue. Super stylish, but not optimized for pickleball.
Oh,
so
yeah.
it's like, all right, here's sunglasses. Great. That's cool. Except there's a problem here. What about people who play indoors or at night? Like, you're not going to wear dark shaded sunglasses at night. So you can only wear those glasses when you play it during the day. So half the time you're just going to be unprotected. That's kind of, it's like pointless. Like wearing your bike helmet half the time. Like, all right, I guess that's better than nothing, but doesn't really make sense. And so, which I guess I can grab the glasses and show you guys. But so that was what led us to kind of develop the first glasses here. You want to help me? You got spare hands. We came out with the pivot glasses. Those were our first attempt to, that's actually the one I have right here. To come out with, like, I would call it like our pro model. They're, here. This holding the mic and doing things at the same time is complicated.
These are dope.
Yes.
I wore these on the podcast with Pickleball Pursuit.
All right, good. That's good to hear. So these are, all right, so Brian's got the drift glasses. Those are the newer frames and silhouette. Those are more like lifestyle focused, I would say. So those are ones that, like, when you're playing pickleball, you can wear these on and off the courts, and you're gonna look great, look cool.
Instant 5-0.
Exactly.
That's
That's
Back
the
to
key.
4-6.
Right.
5-0.
Huge difference.
4-6. Here, put these on.
Yeah, I need them. Bad. So those are the drifts. Like I said, more lifestyle focused. These are the pivot glasses. So very different look and feel. Super modular, customizable. Like you can swap out, pull off the edge. They can be edgeless. They can have an edge. These are much more like what you would see in baseball, volleyball, those sorts of sports. And they're full width, so you don't have peripheral vision issues. So like if you were a hardcore pickleball player and you don't care as much what you want to like look like style-wise, these still will look cool, but you will not see anything else. You just see the court. Yeah. And so that's why we went with these first, because we're catering to kind of people who care about pickleball above all else. They come with different lens options. Like these clear ones, they're photochromic, so they change dark in sunlight. So they're clear right now because we're inside. So you can play indoors and you can go outside and you can wear these in the sun. And then we have amber lenses and we have a bunch of other lenses that you can buy for different light conditions. And then even with those drift glasses that you have, those default to that orange mirrored. That's a specific lens that we developed to, they technically they
Just going to keep handing you stuff so Garrett
thank
can
you.
test
Yeah,
it.
this is nice. This is really great. They technically mute other colors, which basically highlights the ball. So this orange mirrored helps you focus on the pickleball. So,
Well, when you look through them, it's not orange, right?
Yeah,
Like,
so-
from that perspective, they're more of like a bluish.
So the blue mutes all colors except for the green or yellow of a pickleball, which helps me. I don't know about anybody else. When you're losing focus on the court, like all I care about is the ball. And then these lenses, why there's one lens that goes all the way across, like it's not two lenses, is because it comes with other lenses. So you can pop these out, put the photochromic. So same thing. Now you got clear indoors at night, dark at in sun. And then we have amber, which is kind of like mid-light. Like if you're playing it kind of like dusk
Reminds me of
tone.
like snowboarding.
Those are my favorites. I love wearing those because I can wear them in full sun. Like I don't need like dark shades when I'm playing. So I like to wear those. Like it gives me a little bit of like glare protection, but nothing crazy. Yeah, I like those a lot.
So I mean, we did take a bunch of inspiration from snowboarding. Like Garrett and I both snowboard, and shout out to Elise. We went and visited Elise Jones in Utah, and we went and played pickleball, and then just used it as an excuse last year to go snowboarding. But that's part of why we sponsor athletes in Utah. It's very convenient. But
Good idea.
yeah, half joking, but kind of serious. But yeah, so we have all these lenses that different light conditions, and that's what going back, bringing this full circle to the sunglass companies that came in. They didn't address the indoors or at night issue, and they didn't have different options. And so when you buy this, you get a bunch of different lens options so you can play in any condition. And that was kind of the key, is that we wanted it to feel like a good value and that you can play wherever you're playing, and it wasn't just specific to outdoor people.
Yeah, and they're under $100, which is the cool part.
Oh, shit.
Yeah,
Damn.
not gonna break the bank.
When you were talking about this and the eraser and everything, it just hit me. It's like, I'm not trying to fucking like blow smoke up y'all's ass, but if you're the consumer, you don't want to have to think about like, oh, wait, like you don't have to buy a pair of glasses and be like, oh shit, I need 2 other lenses. You guys are doing that work already. It's like, if you're going to buy a paddle and if you like care about the surface and whatnot, you're going to want an eraser. That's not something like the consumer should be like, shit, I wish I had an eraser. It's like, oh wait, it's right there. Like just, you guys are making it easier. Like it's like you guys, I think that's a huge benefit to being someone that actually does play, like both of you guys play, and that's important so that you know what the experience is like for the consumer. And also you guys, not just yourselves playing, but you're on the courts with other people and you can like listen to them and hear the issues that they're having, but just understanding like the entire experience for the consumer, then you can think of all this, the issues that they would come across and be like, we should probably include this or that. We probably don't need that. Yeah, that's what you would like ideally want from most companies, which most companies are not like that, but it is great that you guys do think like that. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like you said, it's just problem solving. It was obvious. Like I played with a bunch of people and watched them take their sunglasses off as it gets dark, and they were wearing them for safety. They took them off because it gets dark. And you're like, all right, now that's defeats the whole
Now I'm going
purpose.
for the face.
Yeah, exactly. And so like that's what the photochromic ones came from. It was like, look, we need to give people an option where they don't have to think about it. If they want to customize, they go customize. But the photochromic, you can wear them in any condition. You don't have to think.
Yeah. Damn. That's interesting. Why did you guys go with 14 for these? I don't think I asked that earlier. Did I?
Honestly, it's what kind of felt like there's 2 things really. And like, I prefer 14 just because I like how it feels like you can kind of like carve a little bit better with it. And you know, we also look to our pros when we're designing paddles too, and they all use 14s. And then as we were designing this, I talked a little bit before about how some of these holes in the paddle are for weight reduction. So there's a balance with foam where you have to keep it at a certain density, right? So that it passes deflection tests. It doesn't compress too much. But as it gets more dense, it gets heavier as well. So, you know, we can make a 16, but it essentially adds more material to the core. So we would have to do some engineering to figure out how to make it lighter. So just for this first paddle, at least, it's easier to have a 14. Okay. And then the second reason is, and this is kind of the most important, our whole tech, the whole reason behind the foam and the way we're situating voids and stuff, you don't need, the foam doesn't perform the same way as honeycomb. You don't need a 16 for your paddle to feel softer. We can control that with the way the voids are situated and playing with the density a little bit in the foam. So
that is for sure the main takeaway for people watching this, is because I think we're going to get a lot of questions like, do you have a 16? Why don't you have a 16? And the point is, we don't, and we don't need to because we designed it to play the exact way we want to. And other paddles, ourselves included, like needed the different thicknesses to slightly adjust the attributes because that was the easiest way to adjust honeycomb at the time. Yeah. But with no honeycomb, we can adjust how it plays on the inside without changing the thickness. So if you played with 16 mils and you're a hardcore 16 mil player, give it a try anyways. It doesn't matter that if you like the paddle, you like the paddle. It doesn't, the thickness is something you kind of have to forget when it comes to this technology. And that's why we purposely didn't put the thickness on the paddle face, is we're trying to kind of re-educate people over time that like, if you like the TruFoam Genesis, you like the TruFoam Genesis. It's not a thickness thing.
Yeah.
I
So
support that statement.
Yeah.
I'm a 16 guy. I don't use 14s, but
You do
this
now.
feels, yeah.
yeah. And so like this is the power level we chose. We can go up and down from here, right? We're not at the limit of PB core with this power level right here. So we can go higher. And, you know, depending on feedback that we get, if people need a even more control paddle, we can get that out of a 14.
I love that you guys are like, I like that that way of thinking of like, we don't need to put a label on there, or like, that just seems, it looks like a step forward. It's like, okay,
Yeah.
we don't need to like determine the power of play just by the width. I guess it's like, okay, there's other factors that can determine it, or now it just like occurred naturally given the material that you used. But that's,
Well, we'll see, because it might backfire, because we're probably going to get that question, you know, thousands of times of
But like,
what's the 16 mil? Every time someone sees me playing with it, they're like, oh, which thickness is that? I'm like, no, it doesn't matter. Don't think like that.
because
exactly.
when you think about why you need why you would want, or what a 16 millimeter honeycomb does, right, compared to 14, that honeycomb, the thicker it is, the more it can compress, right? And this material doesn't perform the same way. It won't. The thicker you go, it doesn't mean it'll compress more. Just because it's so dense, however thick it is, you're not going to be able to press on it any different, right?
yeah.
So that's a good way of describing that. Yeah.
How did you guys end up on this color? I fucking love this color. The colorway is great.
That's a Garrett thing.
Yeah, I mean, so I think when we were first designing these, we took a lot of inspiration from surfboard technology with the foam inside. And so we kind of just stuck to that little bit of pulling from surf inspiration. And, you know, we're just like, man, I mean, foam and surf, I mean, that's kind of like a little green, like a nod to the ocean a little bit, you know what I mean? So that's, at least for this colorway, for this model, that's what we're going with.
Where did the E go? Where's the E?
So we have to pay per letter. So we were just like kind of running tight on funds. We're like, all right, ditch the E.
That's why we called the company Carbon. That's why we spelled it that way.
Yeah, we've always been on a budget.
It's more for financial reasons than anything.
Dude, that's actually hilarious.
That's a great. That should be the official answer. Yeah, I mean, you're like basically cutting in half.
Where are your vowels?
We don't
We
believe
hate
in vowels,
vowels.
except for use O's and A's in TruFoam.
Damn.
We get
which
made
one
fun
of-
of on social sometimes for hating vowels. It's kind of funny.
I legitimately, this one, I can't tell. Is this counterfeit?
No, that one you can.
This one's real?
Bro,
No, it's so fake.
Okay.
at
I
the-
thought so. I was like, dude.
No,
Yeah.
there's the other one that looks maybe more legit, but like,
It's that one.
This one looks, that one
Yeah.
feels legit.
All right, so
dude, that thing looks like
It's
an
terrible.
anime version of our paddle.
Be
or
safe out
something.
there, people. This is a fake counterfeit. The surface feels like cardboard. I legitimately think it's cardboard.
Yeah.
The logo is not right, and yeah, it feels terrible. We hit with it, and it's awful. So the point being, not just our brand, but be careful if you go on like Facebook Marketplace, OfferUp, wherever it is. I don't know. Make sure you know what you're buying, I guess is the point. Because there's some pretty bad stuff out there, and you can get a good deal, but it might be awful on the inside. So I don't know. I'd recommend buying from like reputable retailers or from the brands themselves. But we're seeing this kind of stuff popping up way more frequently, and we're working with our attorneys to try to shut it down because there's just so much counterfeiting going on. But the best way to combat that as a consumer is just to buy direct or buy from someone that you trust.
What about packaging? Can it come in like a carbon packaging and it still be fake? Like if you like buy a powder, it sometimes has those.
Packaging is the easiest thing to fake out of anything. It's literally just, cardboard or plastic. And so if anything, it's easy to fake. And a lot of the counterfeiters are doing a good job from a cosmetic standpoint. I mean, this one is terrible, but that one is pretty good. But the problem is we've bought some of these, and then if you cut them open, the inside is, whatever they decided that day to put on the inside.
Yeah.
So that might be like Gen 1 tech, like that might just be plain honeycomb, and it actually feels pretty light, so it might actually be. This one is like,
That's literally cardboard.
I think they used cardboard on the surface and like painted it black. So I'm not sure
That thing is
what that is.
crazy.
But yeah, it's something to watch out for sure.
And we're working on like technology to, combat against that moving forward.
Yeah. All right, you got some secret stuff there. What do you got?
I do. Carbon Concepts, Matrix, Float.
Yeah.
I'm surprised the A is even in that.
Yeah, that's a typo. We should have taken the vowels out.
Dude, what's the
man.
deal with these guys?
That's kind of.
How old are these?
Man, those are probably a year and a half.
That one's
old,
a year and a half.
I guess.
Yeah.
That one's a little newer, but this is like one of the first like prototypes of TruFoam. This is essentially, we started concepts when we were voyaging into foam. So that's essentially where we started, and then like, kind of like doing like a Selkirk Labs kind of thing, but it's more like just for us, like, and before we had it was really before we had a name for the Genesis, right? We were just like, okay, let's do concepts, and then, number, like a bunch of numbers, like 2.275/114, like.
So we're just tracking all the prototypes basically with the crazy numbering system of whatever we're testing. And then concepts was just the fun name that we coined because we don't like vowels and we also like alliteration. That's basically how we decide on things.
Yes.
That's where we're going to just build, new stuff in the future is in this concepts program. And, mostly it's Garrett, myself, and a handful of others testing things at like the early concept level. But sometimes you may see it out there with some like pros and different people. But if you see concepts, that's the extra secret stuff that hasn't been approved, hasn't been put out there, just testing.
I think that's cool. I think there's like other paddle brands that do that, right? It's always cool to do that.
That's right.
Dude, what business advice would you guys say you have if you were to think of like one thing that maybe came top of mind of something you may have like instilled in yourselves, or maybe you started off doing, or maybe you learned along the way when you started Carbon to where you are now, something that's like really helped you guys? Because like you guys seem pretty chill. I don't know if it's a California thing. You guys are young. Like you guys are pretty chill considering, I would say like the success you've had. You were also somewhat, maybe not early, but I think it's considered early. A lot of people came in like a little bit later, but you guys have been there since somewhat like the start of the new wave.
Yeah. We got pretty lucky with the timing, I would say, for sure. That's a big part of it. But I mean, I'll go first, Kyle, because you have a lot more business experience than I do. Mine, like if anybody actually cares, like my advice on anything is just follow your passions. Like surround yourself with people that love doing the same things that you do, and just do things that like are fulfilling to you. You know what I mean? And for me, it ended up working out where I fell into this, and it just kind of, it was really, like I said, I was in the right place, right time. But I was doing something that I loved, and it kind of worked out that way. Obviously it doesn't work all the time, but that's my advice.
Let's see. I got two things that are kind of just broad for anyone starting a business, whether it's in pickleball or not. We don't necessarily need more people starting pickleball paddle brands, but if you want to, all this advice still applies. But I think the biggest thing is when most people like ask me for advice or talk to me about this sort of thing, you know, if they've got something that they feel strongly about, my advice is just go do it. I think that's the biggest thing. It's you can overanalyze things.
You have to take the leap at some point.
Yeah, you got to take the leap of faith and make it happen. And it, you know, it depends on your financial situation, depends on your family situation, what you can and can't do. But most people can make it work to some extent, even if you start small. It's like, even if you have a full-time job, do it nights, weekends, whatever. Just make it happen and kind of prove the concept. And you just got to start somewhere, and don't think that it has to be perfect. And then the other thing I would say is, like, once you've, you know, started that business or even before, it's extremely helpful to meet other like-minded people in your industry, ideally. So within pickleball for us, or maybe it's like e-commerce or marketing, like, we don't, you know, obviously we have competitors, but I would rather be friendly and friends with those people and share ideas and work on things together than see it as some sort of cutthroat environment. And I think that will take you a long way of, like, changing your philosophy, is, like, you know, being more positive about things in general. And then, you know, good things come when you are just, like, nice to people and help them out and give away, you know, information and help with them, and they help you out too. So.
Are you guys friends with any, like, paddle brand founders? I feel like there's also a decent amount of them out here too.
Yeah, we know a lot of them. I wouldn't say we're, like, you know, best friends with any of them, but it's not like an enemy type situation. It's, you know, I'm happy to chat with them, and I think there's plenty of, you know, opportunity for all of us, and it's really to all of our best interest to some extent have a similar vision for the future and work towards that. Like, we all want pickleball to continue to grow and be a popular sport in the US and internationally, and us fighting over it and making something like a bad experience for the end consumer is not good for the industry. So I think the more that we can come together, the better. Like, there's a bunch of sports, like, you look at, I don't know the exact history, but like racquetball, like, there was hugely popular, like, not as popular now. Like, we don't want to be racquetball. We hope pickleball sticks around forever, really, right?
And another thing is, I think that the more innovation that happens in paddle technology, the better it is for brands, because you know, it opens up a lot of space for IP and being able to like patent some ideas, stuff like that. So it really you know, it starts to separate brands, and you know, good and bad, right? But, like, for us, like, you know, we have a lot of pending marks on this technology, and it's like, okay, so if we can kind of try to narrow down, like, what only us are allowed to do, like, that kind of separates us as a brand, right? And I think you know, that's not the only place to go, though. There's so many other ideas that you can do with cores and surfaces and stuff like that, where it's like, I think that's how you differentiate yourself and make your mark.
Yeah. Like, obviously we want to patent as much as we can and protect it from a business standpoint, but at the same time, friendly competition is good. Like, everyone pushing the limit of paddles is better for the consumer. And frankly, like, everyone gets ideas from each other, same as us. Like, we look at what else is out there and we get inspiration, same thing. So it's all good one way or the other, as long as it's, you know, progressing.
Who are these? What are these shoes? Garrett, did you make these too?
Garrett.
No, dude, I wish I did. These are my favorite. I seriously have 8 or 9 pairs of these, man. They're called Flux. They're I believe they're made by ex Reebok designer. He left and kind of started his own thing. Dude, they're like barefoot style shoes, and they're just like, they're the comfiest things ever, dude. It's like wearing socks. But, like, you know, you feel a lot of the ground, right?
They look very California, kind of like Vans, you know?
Oh yeah, a little bit,
Yeah,
but it's like a little bit
Vans.
of like a wider toe box and, like, super comfy.
So let us know if you want to collab on that.
I've
If that
already
brand
asked,
sees
bro.
this.
I've already asked. They're tough.
Give us an affiliate code that we could mention.
Yeah, I don't have anything else, man. I appreciate how much you guys. What the fuck is this?
I think that's just like a sample of, like, a blank core.
Yeah.
Like, that's what it looks like coming out of the mold at the factory.
This is the foam.
Yeah.
But if you were to
Dude,
just,
this
like,
is
stick that
dense
between
as
some face sheets, that would play terribly.
Yeah.
And be
like
super
doo-doo.
heavy.
Yeah.
This is dense as shit.
Yeah.
Dude, this is like a burnt cookie.
Basically.
Totally, dude.
Fuck. Anyways, Yeah, I don't have anything else, man. Like, I appreciate you guys making the time to do this, like allowing me to go into y'all's office, trusting me with obviously like the information and being able to record around you guys, being open to that, and super excited for just like the release of this product. Just the product is good. It's not just good, but it's like durable. So it's like it answers a lot of the problems that I think a lot of consumers have had, and you can see that everywhere. You could see it online, you could see it offline at the courts. People are tired of paying like high-end price for a product that doesn't last very long. Again, not to say these are indestructible, but it is actually made with something different as opposed to like everything else that's made out right now. It's like they just keep slapping on the same price tag or increased price tags for the same product, but then we're now like entering into this new era of, I guess, like foam. It's like the generation foam, which is great. It's cool. Like I appreciate that you guys put all this like hard work into something like this for something that like a lot of people can enjoy, and it makes like a big impact in people's lives. So yeah, it's great.
Awesome. Well, yeah, thank you. We're excited as well. It's been a long time coming. Excited to get the paddles in people's hands and see what they think. So I guess by the time this comes out, it's available. So
Yeah.
go to our website.
Code BP10 if you want to take 10% off.
That's right.
It's 10%. Yeah. Go to the website. Damn.
Let's go play.
Let's go play. Yeah. All right, we're good.
We